Do-hyun's eyes snapped open in the darkness. Something was wrong. He could feel it before he could see it. A presence. Close. Too close. He turned his head slowly, and his heart nearly stopped. A face hovered inches from his own. Large silver eyes stared at him without blinking. Pale lavender skin glowed faintly in the dim light of his sleeping pod. White hair fell like silk around a face that was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Yuna, his alien roommate. He opened his mouth to scream, but her hand clamped over his lips before any sound could escape. Her skin was cool against his face, smooth like polished stone. "Do not move," she whispered. Her voice was soft but urgent. "Do not speak. They are listening." Don's mind raced. He had lived with Yuna for 3 months now on orbital station Harmony 7. She was a Volith, one of many alien species that shared the station with humans. She studied human behavior for her people. He was an engineer who fixed broken machines. They were polite to each other. They shared meals sometimes. But she had never done anything like this. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her hand away from his mouth. "What are you doing?" he hissed. "Listen," she said. He listened. At first, he heard nothing unusual. Then he noticed it. The station's hum was different. Every space station had a sound, a constant background noise of machines working to keep everyone alive. Do-hyun had learned that sound like a musician learns a song. And right now, something was off. "The air system," he whispered. Yuna nodded. Her silver eyes seemed dimmer than usual. "There is poison in the air." "A toxin?" "It affects my people within minutes. Humans take hours to feel it. I came to warn you." Do-hyun sat up quickly. The movement made Yuna lean back, and he saw her stumble slightly. She was weak already. "How bad is it?" he asked. "Bad. Every non-human on this station is in danger. Some species will die within the hour. Others will fall unconscious. Only humans can still move freely." She paused and looked at him with those strange, beautiful eyes. "You are our only hope." Do-hyun felt the weight of her words pressed down on him. Harmony 7 was home to over 2,000 beings. Humans were the minority here, maybe 300 at most. The rest were aliens from dozens of different worlds, all living together as part of an interstellar exchange program. They had come here to learn from each other, to build bridges between species, and now someone was trying to kill them. "Who did this?" Do-hyun asked as he climbed out of his sleeping pod. "I do not know, but it was deliberate. The toxin is too specific, too targeted. Someone designed it to harm non-humans while leaving humans untouched." The implication hit Do-hyun like a punch to the gut. A human had done this. One of his own people. He pushed the thought aside. There would be time for anger later. Right now, he needed to act. "Can you walk?" he asked Yuna. She tried to stand and nearly fell. Do-hyun caught her, his arms wrapping around her slim frame. She was lighter than he expected, and she felt fragile against him. Her skin was cold now, colder than before. "I will slow you down," she said. "Leave me. Find the source of the toxin and stop it." "I'm not leading you," Do-hyun said firmly. He helped her sit on his sleeping pod and grabbed a small communication device from his shelf. "Can you guide me through the station's systems?" Yuna blinked at him. In the 3 months they had lived together, she had studied humans carefully. She had watched them laugh and fight and love and hate. She had written reports about their strange customs and confusing emotions. But she had never fully understood them until now. This human, this simple engineer who fixed broken machines, was refusing to abandon her. Even though she was not his kind. Even though saving her might cost him his life. "Yes," she said quietly. "I can guide you." Do-hyun attached the communicator to his ear. "Stay connected." Tell me everything you know about this toxin and where it might be coming from. He moved to the door of their shared quarters and paused. The corridor outside was dark, lit only by emergency lights that cast red shadows on the walls. Somewhere in the distance, he heard a thud. Someone falling. Someone dying. The toxin affects different species in different ways. Yuna's voice said in his ear. She sounded weaker already, her words coming slower. For my people, it causes paralysis first, then organ failure. For the Korath, it attacks their nervous system. For the Mirren, it stops their hearts. Is there a cure? Do-hyun asked as he crept down the corridor. Only stopping the source. The air recyclers will clean the toxin eventually, but not fast enough. You must find where it is being pumped into the system and shut it down. Do-hyun thought quickly. The station's environmental systems were controlled from 3 main locations. The primary control room was in the center of the station, heavily guarded and monitored. The secondary controls were in the engineering bay, where he worked every day. And the emergency override was in the cargo hold, accessible only to senior staff. Where should I start? He asked. There was a pause. When Yuna spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. The cargo hold. Bay 7. That is where the toxin signature is strongest. Do-hyun changed direction and headed for the lower levels. As he walked, he passed open doorways and saw things that made his stomach turn. A Korath diplomat lay twitching on the floor, his scales turning gray. A group of Mirren children huddled together, their parents unconscious around them. A Velith woman crawled toward a water dispenser, her movements slow and desperate. He wanted to stop and help them all, but he knew that the only way to save them was to stop the poison at its source. Yuna, he said softly, are you still there? Silence. Yuna. A weak breath. I am here. Keep going. You are close. He moved faster, his feet pounding against the metal floor. The cargo hold was just ahead, a massive chamber where supplies and equipment were stored. Bay 7 was in the far corner, sealed behind heavy doors that required special clearance. Do-hyun did not have that clearance, but he was an engineer. He knew how machines worked, and more importantly, he knew how to make them do what he wanted. He reached the door and pulled open the access panel beside it. Wires and circuits stared back at him like a puzzle waiting to be solved. His fingers moved quickly, connecting and disconnecting, rerouting power and signals. The door hissed and slid open. Inside, he saw a large machine connected to the ventilation system. Green liquid bubbled inside glass tubes, and a display showed the toxin being pumped steadily into the station's air supply. Beside the machine was a console with a single message, blinking on the screen. Humanity first. Aliens last. Do-hyun stared at the words, and something cold settled in his chest. One of his own people had built this. One of his own people was killing thousands of innocent beings because they looked different, because they came from different worlds. Do-hyun. Yuna's voice was so faint he could barely hear it. What do you see? He swallowed hard. I found it. I found the source. Can you stop it? He looked at the machine, at its complex systems and failsafes. It would not be easy. It might not even be possible. But he had to try. Yes, he said, though he was not sure if it was true. I can stop it. He stepped forward and got to work. Behind him, the door sealed shut with a heavy click. Somewhere above, footsteps echoed in the corridor. He was not alone. The footsteps grew louder. Do-hyun's hands froze over the machine's controls. He turned slowly, expecting to see the enemy, expecting to face whoever had created this nightmare. Instead, he saw a woman in a security uniform. She was human, tall and strong, with short black hair and sharp eyes that scanned the room in seconds. A weapon was raised in her hands, pointed directly at his chest. "Step away from the machine," she ordered. "Wait," Do-hyun said, raising his hands. "I'm trying to stop it. This thing is killing everyone on the station." The woman did not lower her weapon. "I know what it's doing. What I don't know is why you're here, alone, with access to a sealed bay that requires level 5 clearance. I broke in. I'm an engineer. I fix things." Do-hyun kept his voice calm even though his heart was racing. "My name is Do-hyun. I live in Section 4 with a Velith roommate named Yuna. She's the one who figured out what was happening. She sent me here." The woman studied him for a long moment. Then she lowered her weapon slightly. "I'm Jisoo, station security. I've been trying to find the source of the toxin for the past hour. Every lead I followed went nowhere. The Velith can sense chemical changes in the air," Do-hyun explained. "Yuna tracked it here before she became too weak to move." Jisoo looked at the machine, at the green liquid bubbling through its tubes. Her jaw tightened. "Humanity first. I've heard of them. Extremists who think humans should rule the galaxy, not share it. One of them did this? Looks that way." Jisoo walked closer to the machine and examined it. "This is sophisticated. Military grade. Whoever built this had resources and knowledge. This wasn't some angry person acting alone." Do-hyun felt sick. He had always known that some humans feared aliens. He had seen the protests on Earth, heard the speeches about human purity and alien threats. But he had never imagined anyone would go this far. "Can you help me shut it down?" he asked. Jisoo nodded. "That's why I'm here. But there's a problem. See these wires?" She pointed to a cluster of cables connected to the machine's base. "Those are linked to explosives. If we try to turn off the machine the wrong way, this whole bay goes up. And probably half the station with it." Do-hyun's blood went cold. "So we can't just pull the plug." "No. We need to disable the failsafe first, then shut down the toxin dispenser, then disconnect the explosives. In that exact order. Do you know how to do that?" Jisoo hesitated. "I know security systems. But this?" She shook her head. "This is engineering. Advanced engineering. I was hoping to find an engineer." Despite everything, Do-hyun almost laughed. "You found one." He knelt beside the machine and began examining its internal structure. It was complex, more complex than anything he had worked on before. But the basic principles were the same. Power flows through circuits. Signals travel through wires. Every machine has a logic, a pattern, a way of thinking. He just had to understand this one. "Yuna," he whispered into his communicator. "Are you still there?" Static, then a faint voice. "I am here, barely. I need your help. The machine has a failsafe connected to explosives. Do your people have any knowledge of human weapon systems?" A long pause. When Yuna spoke again, her voice was slightly stronger, as if his need had given her something to focus on. "The Velith have studied human weapons. We feared you might use them against us someday. Send me an image of the system. I will analyze it." Do-hyun used his communicator to capture a picture of the machine's internal layout and transmitted it to Yuna. Seconds felt like hours as he waited. "There," Yuna finally said. "The blue wire connects the failsafe to the detonator, but it is linked to a pressure sensor. If you cut it without releasing the pressure first, it will trigger. How do I release the pressure? There should be a valve near the base. Turn it counterclockwise until you hear a click." Do-hyun found the valve and turned it carefully. His hands were steady, even though every part of him wanted to shake. The valve resisted at first, then moved smoothly. A soft click echoed in the silent bay. "Done," he said. "Now cut the blue wire." Jisoo handed him a small cutting tool from her belt. Do-hyun positioned it against the blue wire, took a deep breath, and cut. Nothing exploded. The machine continued to hum, but the explosive failsafe was disabled. "One down," Dohyun said. "Two to go." He worked faster now, guided by Yuna's fading voice and his own instincts. The toxin dispenser was connected to the ventilation system through a series of pumps. He disabled them one by one, rerouting the flow away from the air supply. The green liquid stopped bubbling. The display showed the toxin levels dropping. "It's working," Jisoo said, watching the readings. "The air is clearing." But they were not done yet. The explosives were still active, still connected to the machine's power core. If anyone tried to move or dismantle the device, it would still detonate. "I need to get inside the power core," Dohyun said. "But it's sealed." Jisoo examined the core's housing. "I can blast it open, but that might trigger something." "No blasting." Dohyun looked around the bay, searching for anything useful. His eyes landed on a maintenance panel on the wall. "Wait here." He ran to the panel and pulled it open. Inside were tools, spare parts, and most importantly, a plasma cutter designed for precision work. He grabbed it and returned to the machine. "This will take time," he said. "Watch the door." Jisoo positioned herself near the entrance, her weapon ready. Dohyun activated the plasma cutter and began carefully slicing through the power core's housing. The metal glowed orange, then white, then separated cleanly inside the core. He found a mess of wires and circuits all connected to a central battery. The explosives drew power from this battery. If he disconnected it the wrong way, the stored energy would surge and ignite the detonators. "Yuna," he said, "I need you one more time." No response. "Yuna." Static crackled. Then, so faint he almost missed it. Red wire first. Then yellow. Then remove the battery. Dohyun's hands moved without hesitation. Red wire. Cut. Yellow wire. Cut. He grabbed the battery and pulled it free. The machine went dark. The hum faded to silence. The threat was over. Jisoo let out a breath she had been holding. "You did it." Dohyun slumped against the machine, exhaustion washing over him. "Yuna did it. I just followed instructions. Don't sell yourself short." Jisoo holstered her weapon and looked at him with new respect. "I've seen trained soldiers freeze in situations like this. You stayed calm. You thought clearly. You saved everyone on this station." Dohyun shook his head. "We haven't saved anyone yet. The toxin is still in people's systems. We need to get help, get medical teams moving, make sure everyone who's affected gets treatment. The station's communication array is down. The attackers must have disabled it." Jisoo frowned. "We need to reach the primary control room and restore systems." Dohyun pushed himself to his feet. His body ached, and his mind was foggy with fatigue. But there were still people dying. There was still work to do. "Then let's go," he said. They left the cargo bay together, stepping over debris and unconscious bodies as they made their way toward the heart of the station. Dohyun tried to contact Yuna again, but there was only silence now. He told himself she was just unconscious, that she would be fine once the toxin cleared. He had to believe that. He could not accept any other possibility. As they walked, Jisoo spoke quietly. "Why did you do it? Risk your life for aliens you barely know?" Dohyun thought about the question. It deserved an honest answer. "Because someone had to," he said. "Because if humans did this, then humans need to fix it. And because..." He paused, searching for the right words. "Because if we don't fight for each other, what's the point of being here? What's the point of reaching the stars if we just bring our hatred with us?" Jisoo was silent for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "My grandmother used to say something similar. She said humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our stubborn refusal to give up on each other." Dohyun smiled despite everything. "Your grandmother sounds wise." She was. and she would have liked you. They reached the central corridor, where the path split in two directions. One led to the control room. The other led to the medical bay, where Yuna might be waiting. Do-hyun hesitated for only a second. Then he turned toward the control room. Yuna had told him to save everyone. He would honor that request. The control room was chaos. Emergency lights flashed red and orange across dozens of screens, showing critical failures throughout the station. Bodies lay slumped over consoles, unconscious aliens who had tried to fight the toxin until the very end. A few humans moved frantically between stations, trying to manage systems they barely understood. Do-hyun and Jisoo pushed through the crowd. A young human technician grabbed Do-hyun's arm, his face pale with fear. "The life support is failing in sections 8 through 12, the technician said. "We don't know how to reroute the power. The Korath engineers were handling it, but they're all unconscious now." "Show me," Do-hyun said. They worked for what felt like hours. Do-hyun's engineering training had prepared him for emergencies, but nothing like this. Every time he fixed one problem, two more appeared. Power failures, oxygen leaks, temperature fluctuations. The station was dying, and he was trying to save it with tape and prayers. But slowly, system by system, things began to stabilize. Jisoo restored communications. The technicians managed to seal the worst leaks. Medical teams finally began moving through the station, treating the affected aliens with whatever medicines they could find. When Do-hyun finally stepped back from his console, his hands were shaking and his vision was blurry with exhaustion. A woman's voice cut through the noise. "Do-hyun!" He turned and saw a familiar face pushing through the crowd. Hemi, his older sister. She wore a medical uniform stained with fluids of various colors, evidence of the alien patients she had been treating. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they lit up when she saw him. "Thank God you're alive," she said, pulling him into a tight hug. "When I heard what was happening, I thought." "I'm fine," Do-hyun said, though he was not sure that was true. "Where's Yuna? Have you seen her?" Hemi's expression changed. "She's in the medical bay. I've been treating her personally. She's stable, but barely. The toxin hit her hard. Take me to her." The medical bay was crowded with patients of every species. Aliens lay on beds designed for humans, their strange bodies connected to machines that beeped and hummed uncertainly. The human medical staff moved between them, doing their best to help creatures they had never treated before. Hemi led Do-hyun to a private room in the back. Yuna lay on a bed there, her lavender skin now pale and gray. Her silver eyes were closed, and her breathing was shallow. Tubes connected her to various monitors that displayed readings Do-hyun could not understand. "She's been drifting in and out of consciousness," Hemi said quietly. "The toxin damaged her nervous system. She'll recover, but it will take time." Do-hyun pulled a chair beside the bed and sat down. He took Yuna's cool hand in his own, feeling how fragile it was. "She saved my life," he said. "She could have stayed in her own quarters, sealed herself in, waited for the toxin to clear. Instead, she came to me. She guided me through the entire station, telling me what to do even as her body was shutting down." Hemi watched her brother with knowing eyes. "She must trust you." "I don't know why. We barely know each other. We've been roommates for 3 months, but we never really talked about anything important. Just small things. Meals, weather, complaints about station regulations." "Sometimes trust isn't about knowing someone," Hemi said. "Sometimes it's about seeing what they're capable of when it matters." Yuna's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, she seemed confused, uncertain of where she was. Then her gaze found Do-hyun, and something like relief crossed her features. "You survived," she whispered. "Thanks to you," Do-hyun said. "You guided me the whole way. I couldn't have done it without your help." Yuna's lips curved slightly. It was not quite a smile, but it was close. I told you. Humans are our only hope. Amy excused herself to check on other patients, leaving them alone. Do-hyun kept holding Yuna's hand, unsure why he felt the need to maintain the contact, but unwilling to let go. I need to tell you something, Yuna said after a long silence. Her voice was stronger now, though still weak. Something about why I am here. Do-hyun waited. I was not sent just to study human behavior. The Velith High Council. They fear your people. They have watched humanity for a long time. They have seen your wars, your weapons, the way you conquered your own planet, and then reached for the stars. They believe you are dangerous. Do-hyun felt a cold weight settle in his chest. And they sent you to confirm that? Yes, I was supposed to observe you, to determine if humans should be considered a threat to our kind. If my report was negative, the Velith would have pushed for humanity to be isolated, cut off from the interstellar community. And what did you find? Do-hyun asked quietly. What will your report say? Yuna was silent for a moment. Her silver eyes studied his face as if searching for something. I found that humans are complicated, she finally said. You are capable of great cruelty. The people who created that toxin, who tried to murder everyone on this station, they were human. That hatred, that desire to destroy what is different, it lives inside your species. Do-hyun nodded slowly. He could not argue with that. But I also found something else, Yuna continued. I found humans who fought against that hatred. Humans who risked everything to save people they had never met. People who looked nothing like them. I found you, Do-hyun. A man who woke to a stranger, inches from his face, and chose to help instead of attack. Who ran toward danger when any sensible creature would have run away. She squeezed his hand gently. I will tell the council that humans are dangerous. That part is true. But I will also tell them that human danger can be aimed in many directions. And when it is aimed at protecting others, when it is aimed at justice and compassion, there is no force in the galaxy more powerful. Do-hyun did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as dangerous. He fixed machines. He followed rules. He lived a quiet life. But tonight he had disarmed explosives, disabled a weapon of mass destruction, and helped save thousands of lives. Maybe Yuna was right. Maybe there was something inside humans, something fierce and stubborn and relentless, that only emerged when it was truly needed. Thank you, he finally said, for trusting me. Thank you for earning that trust. An alarm suddenly blared through the medical bay. Red lights flashed, and a voice echoed from the speakers. Attention all personnel. Armed hostiles detected in Section 6. All civilians report to secure locations. Security teams respond immediately. Do-hyun looked at Yuna, then toward the door. Jisoo appeared in the doorway, her weapon drawn. It's the extremists, she said grimly. They're not done. They've taken hostages in the diplomatic wing. They're demanding that all aliens be expelled from the station within 1 hour, or they start killing. Do-hyun stood up. His body screamed for rest, but there was no time for that now. How many of them? He asked. At least a dozen. Maybe more. They're well armed and well organized. And we have? You, me, and about 20 security officers who aren't unconscious or treating patients. Yuna tried to sit up. I can help. I can no. Do-hyun gently pushed her back down. You need to rest. You've done enough. But I'll come back, he said. I promise. He turned and followed Jisoo out of the medical bay, leaving Yuna staring after him with those silver eyes that had started to haunt his thoughts. The battle for Harmony 7 was not over. It was just beginning. The diplomatic wing was the heart of Harmony 7's mission. Here, representatives from dozens of worlds met to discuss trade, treaties, and the future of interstellar cooperation. Beautiful artwork decorated the walls, gifts from countless civilizations. Now, armed men stood among that beauty, their weapons pointed at terrified hostages. Do-hyun crouched behind a support pillar, watching the scene through a cracked doorway. He counted 14 armed extremists, all human, all wearing the same symbol on their uniforms, a human fist crushing a star. The hostages were mostly alien diplomats, too weak from the toxin to resist. Though a few human staff members had been taken as well. At the center of it all stood their leader. He was a tall man with cold eyes and a face that might have been handsome if not for the cruelty written across it. A broadcast device sat on the table beside him, transmitting his demands to the entire station. "I am Taiwu," the man said, his voice echoing through speakers in every corridor. "And I speak for the true humanity. For too long, we have let these aliens walk among us, pretending they are our equals. For too long, we have shared our technology, our homes, our future with creatures who would enslave us if they had the chance." Do-hyun felt his hands clench into fists. "Tonight, we showed the galaxy what humans can do when we stand together," Taiwu continued. "We nearly purged this station of alien filth. And though some among us have betrayed their own species, we will not stop. We will never stop. Humanity deserves to rule. Humanity deserves to conquer. And every alien who refuses to accept that truth will face the consequences." Jisoo appeared beside Do-hyun, her face grim. Behind her, a small group of security officers and volunteers waited for orders. "We can't storm the room directly," Jisoo whispered. "They'll kill the hostages before we get halfway across. Is there another way in?" "Maintenance tunnels run beneath the wing. We could send a small team through, come up behind them. But we'd need a distraction, something to draw their attention." Dawn thought for a moment. "I can be the distraction." Jisoo stared at him. "Are you insane?" "They'll kill you." "Maybe, but I don't think Taiwu wants martyrs. He wants to prove his point. He wants to show the galaxy that humans support him." Do-hyun met her eyes. What if a human walks in there and tells him he's wrong? What if the distraction is a debate? That's a terrible plan. Do you have a better one? Jisoo opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at her team, at the scared faces waiting for leadership. Then she sighed. "You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the stupidest. Maybe both." She handed him a small communicator. "Keep this in your ear. When we're in position, I'll give you a signal. Buy us as much time as you can." Do-hyun took the communicator and stood up. His legs felt weak, and his heart was pounding so hard he was sure the extremists could hear it. But he walked forward anyway, stepping out from behind the pillar and into full view. "Hey!" One of the guards shouted, raising his weapon. Do-hyun raised his hands. "I'm not armed. I just want to talk." Taiwu turned, his cold eyes narrowing. "And who are you?" "My name is Do-hyun. I'm an engineer. I'm also the one who disabled your toxin machine and disarmed your explosives." A murmur ran through the extremists. Taiwu's expression shifted from annoyance to interest. "Bring him here," he ordered. Two guards grabbed Do-hyun's arms and dragged him to the center of the room. He was pushed to his knees in front of Taiwu, surrounded by hostages who watched with terrified eyes. "So you're the hero?" Taiwu said, circling around him. "The human who saved the aliens. Tell me, why did you betray your own kind?" "I didn't betray anyone." "You did." Do-hyun kept his voice steady. "You tried to murder thousands of innocent beings. Children, doctors, scientists, people who came here in peace, hoping to learn from us and share their knowledge." Taiwu laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. "Innocent? These creatures are manipulating us. They're using their technology to control us, to make us dependent on them. Every treaty we sign, every trade deal, every cultural exchange, it's all designed to weaken humanity. You really believe that? I know it. Taiwu leaned close, his face inches from Do-hyun's. I've seen their true nature. I've watched them look at us with their strange eyes, speaking their strange languages, thinking their strange thoughts. They're not like us. They'll never be like us. And eventually, they'll decide they don't need us anymore. Dawn looked past Taiwo at the hostages. A young Velith woman clutched her injured arm, her silver eyes wide with fear. A Karath elder sat rigid, trying to maintain dignity even as death surrounded him. A human child cried quietly in her mother's arms. You're afraid, Do-hyun said quietly. Taiwu straightened. What? You're afraid of them? Afraid of what you don't understand. Afraid that maybe, in a universe full of wonders, humanity isn't as special as you thought. Do-hyun stood up slowly, ignoring the guns pointed at him. I used to be afraid too. When I first came to this station, I couldn't sleep. I heard strange sounds, smelled strange smells, saw faces that my brain told me were wrong. It took months before I stopped flinching every time an alien walked past. Then you understand, Taiwu said. No, because I learned something you never did. Do-hyun's voice rose. Not just for Taiwu, but for everyone listening. I learned that fear is a choice. I learned that the same instincts that make us suspicious of strangers can also make us curious about them. I learned that humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to destroy. It's our ability to adapt, to grow, to reach out our hands to something different and say, let's be friends. Taiwu's face twisted with anger. Pretty words. But words won't save your alien pets. Words won't stop what's coming. Maybe not, but humans will. A commotion erupted near the back of the room. Jisoo and her team burst through concealed panels in the floor, weapons blazing. The extremists turned in confusion, caught between Do-hyun in front and the security team behind. In the chaos, Do-hyun moved. He grabbed the nearest weapon, a shock baton dropped by a surprised guard, and swung it hard. The guard went down. Another extremist aimed at him, but Do-hyun ducked and tackled the man to the ground. All around him, humans fought humans. Security officers and volunteers, some with training and some with nothing but courage, threw themselves at the extremists. It was messy and violent and desperate. Taiwu tried to escape through a side door, but Do-hyun intercepted him. They crashed into a display case, shattering artwork that had survived 100 light years of travel. You're a fool, Taiwu snarled, punching Do-hyun in the face. You think they'll thank you? You think they'll remember your sacrifice? They're aliens. They don't care about you. Do-hyun tasted blood, but kept fighting. You don't know them. You never tried to know them. They struggled on the floor, trading blows. Taiwu was stronger, better trained. He got his hands around Do-hyun's throat and squeezed. This is evolution, Taiwu hissed. The strong survive. The weak perish. And humanity will be strong. Do-hyun's vision started to darken. He clawed at Taiwu's arms but could not break the grip. Then, suddenly, the pressure vanished. Taiwu cried out in pain and collapsed beside him. Do-hyun looked up and saw Yuna standing over them, a metal bar in her trembling hands. Her lavender skin was still pale, and she was barely able to stay on her feet. But she had come. She had crossed the station in her weakened state to help him. I told you, she said, her voice weak but fierce. Humans are dangerous. But so are Velith. When we choose to be. Dawn laughed despite everything. I thought I told you to rest. You are not in a position to give orders. She extended a hand to help him up. Besides, you promised to come back. I decided to make sure you kept that promise. Around them, the fight was ending. The extremists were surrendering, overwhelmed by the combined force of humans who refused to stand with hatred. Jisoo moved through the room, securing prisoners and freeing hostages. The alien diplomats watched in stunned silence. They had expected to die tonight, killed by the species they had tried to befriend. Instead, they had watched humans fight and bleed for them. An elderly Karath diplomat approached Do-Yoon. His scales were still gray from the toxin's effects, but his eyes were clear. "In all my years," the diplomat said, "I have never seen such a thing. Your own people attacked us, and your own people saved us. How do we understand this?" Do-Yoon thought about the question. It was a big question, maybe too big for a simple engineer. "Humanity is complicated," he finally said. "We have darkness in us, real darkness. But we have light too. And tonight, the light won." The diplomat considered this. Then he did something Do-Yoon had never seen a Korath do before. He placed his clawed hand over his heart and bowed. "Then we will remember this light," he said, "and we will trust that it will shine again whenever darkness rises." Yuna's hand found Do-Yoon's, her cool fingers intertwining with his. They stood together in the ruined room, surrounded by broken glass and unconscious bodies, and watched as humanity proved itself worthy of the stars. 1 week later, Harmony 7 was slowly returning to normal. The damaged sections had been sealed and repaired. The toxin had been completely flushed from the air systems. The injured were healing, though some would carry scars for the rest of their lives. And the extremists, including Taiwu, were in custody, waiting to be transported to Earth for trial. Do-Yoon stood at the observation deck, watching the stars drift past the massive window. He had been coming here every evening since the attack, finding peace in the vast silence of space. Tonight, like every other night, he was not alone. Yuna appeared beside him, her footsteps so quiet he did not hear her approach. She was still recovering, moving slower than before, but her silver eyes had regained their brightness. Her lavender skin glowed softly in the starlight. "You missed dinner," she said. "Sorry, I wasn't hungry." "You need to eat. Human bodies require regular nutrition, especially after physical trauma." She paused. "Or so I have read." Do-Yoon smiled despite himself. "Are you worried about me?" "I am. Conducting ongoing research. Your health is relevant to my study." "Right. Research." They stood in comfortable silence, watching a distant nebula paint the darkness with purple and gold light. It was beautiful, the kind of beauty that made all the struggles seem small. "I finished my report to the High Council," Yuna said eventually. Do-Yoon's heart tightened. He had been wondering about this, dreading it. "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That humans are unpredictable. That they contain both great capacity for cruelty and great capacity for compassion. That they are dangerous, but their danger can be directed toward protection as easily as destruction." She turned to face him. "I recommended continued cooperation. Expanded cooperation, in fact. And they accepted that?" "They had questions. Many questions. They were particularly interested in the events of that night. When I told them about a human engineer who risked his life repeatedly to save aliens, he barely knew. They were confused." "Confused how?" "They could not understand why you did it. In Velith culture, we are loyal to our families, our clans, our species. We help those who share our blood. The idea of sacrificing oneself for strangers, for beings of entirely different species." She shook her head. "It does not make sense to them. Does it make sense to you?" Yuna was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than usual. "I have been trying to understand humans for 3 months. I have observed your customs, your conflicts, your contradictions. I have filled dozens of reports with data and analysis. But that night, when you took my hand and promised to save everyone, I think I finally understood something important." "What's that?" "Humans do not help strangers because it makes logical sense. You help them because you feel their pain as if it were your own. You have a word for this. Empathy. My people have studied this concept, but I do not think we truly understood it until now. She stepped closer to him, close enough that he could feel the subtle coolness of her skin. When I was lying in that medical bed, barely able to breathe, I felt afraid. Not just for myself, but for you. I kept thinking, what if he does not succeed? What if he dies trying to save us? And I realized that I cared about your survival more than my own. That I would have given anything to know you were safe. Doan turned to face her. They were standing very close now, closer than roommates normally stood, closer than different species usually allowed. Yuna, I do not know what this feeling is called in your language. Perhaps it does not have a name. Perhaps it is something new, something that can only exist when different species learn to see each other as more than strangers. Her silver eyes searched his face. But I know that I do not want to go back to how things were before. I do not want to observe you from a distance anymore. I want to be close. Dohan reached out and gently touched her face. Her skin was cool against his palm, smooth and soft. She leaned into his touch, her eyes closing briefly. I feel the same way, he said. I don't know what to call it either, but I know I don't want you watching me from across the room anymore. Yuna's lips curved into something that was almost a human smile. Does this mean you are comfortable with me being close to you? Yeah, more than comfortable. Even when you wake up and I am right beside you? Doyun laughed. Maybe warn me first next time. But yeah, even then, they stood together, watching the stars, their hands intertwined. Behind them, the station hummed with life. Aliens and humans moved through the corridors, sharing meals, sharing stories, sharing a future that had seemed impossible just a week ago. Hemi found them an hour later, still standing at the observation window. She took one look at their joined hands and smiled knowingly. There you are. The station commander wants to speak with both of you. She glanced at Yuna. With all of us, actually? Apparently, there's been a lot of interest in what happened here. Interest from who? Doyun asked. Everyone? The story has spread across the galaxy. A human supremacist attack foiled by humans who chose to fight for aliens instead of against them. Velith reports praising human compassion. Karath diplomats calling for closer ties with Earth. Hemi shook her head in amazement. We've received thousands of applications from aliens who wanted to come to Harmony 7. They want to understand humans better. They want to see if the stories are true. Dahyun felt a strange mix of pride and embarrassment. He had not done anything special. He had just done what needed to be done. But maybe that was the point. Maybe humanity's greatest moments were not about doing special things, but about doing ordinary things when it mattered most. The station commander was an older woman named Director Park, with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. She met them in her office, a room filled with artifacts from a dozen different worlds. Sit down, she said. We have a lot to discuss. They sat. Director Park studied each of them in turn before speaking. What happened last week changed everything. Not just for this station, but for humanity's place in the galaxy. For years, we've been seen as dangerous, unpredictable, potentially hostile. Some species have been waiting for an excuse to isolate us, to cut us off from the interstellar community. She leaned forward. You three gave them the opposite. You showed them that humans can recognize evil in our own ranks and fight against it. You showed them that we choose our alliances based on character, not species. You showed them something that many aliens never believed possible, that humans can be trusted. Director Park stood and walked to the window. The Galactic Council has proposed an expanded role for humanity in interstellar governance. Trade delegations, scientific exchanges, even a seat on the Council's advisory board. None of this would have happened without what you did. Dahyun shifted uncomfortably. We just did what anyone would do. No, the director said firmly. You did what humans do. And that's precisely the point. She turned back to face them. I want you three to be the face of this new relationship. Ambassador positions, essentially. Meeting with delegations, sharing your experiences, helping other species understand who we really are. It was a big request. Do-hyun looked at Hemi, then at Yuna. His sister nodded slightly. Yuna squeezed his hand. We'll do it, Do-hyun said. That night, Do-hyun returned to the quarters he shared with Yuna. Everything looked the same as it had a week ago. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 cultures learning to coexist in a small space. But everything felt different. Yuna sat on her bed, watching him with those silver eyes that no longer seemed strange. They seemed familiar now. Welcome. I sent a personal message to my family today, she said. I told them about you, about what you did, about how I feel. What did they say? They were confused, as I expected. Relationships between Velith and other species are not common, but they did not forbid it. They said they trusted my judgment. She paused. My mother said something interesting. She said that perhaps this is how the galaxy will truly unite. Not through treaties or trade, but through connections between individuals. Hearts that learn to beat together despite being different. Do-hyun sat beside her. Your mother sounds wise. She is. And she wants to meet you someday. I'd like that. They sat together in the quiet. 2 beings from different worlds who'd found something unexpected in each other. Something strange and new and wonderful. Outside, the stars continued their endless dance. Ships came and went, carrying beings from 1,000 different civilizations. And on orbital station, Harmony 7, a human and a Velith watched the universe together, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it side by side, because that was what humans did. They found connection in the most unlikely places. They built bridges across impossible gaps. They reached out to the unknown and said, let's be friends. And sometimes, the unknown reached back.